Hello, you're listening to Coffee and Culture. We're on Talk 1260 and 103.7 KTRC, streaming at santafe.com. Podcasts also places at Coffee and Culture with Matthew Chase Daniel, wherever you like to get your podcasts. My name's Matthew Chase Daniel. I'm your host every other week on the radio. And today I'm talking with Amber Dawn Bear Robe, who is starting a new exciting Native Fashion Week Santa Fe that runs from May 8th through 11th in the Railyard. So that's coming up in a week or two from when this airs. And very excited. Amber Dawn has long experience running fashion shows and indigenous native fashion here in Santa Fe. And is taking that experience and knowledge and the people she knows and the great work she does to launch this exciting new venture, which I'm sure is both thrilling and scary. And
yes.
So welcome to the show, and tell me just a little bit about what this is, and also I just want to talk about native fashion as different from the fashion world in New York and Paris and Milan, and the history of it and how it draws on historical, traditional works from what people were making and wearing 100 years and 1,000 years ago, but it's also drawing on all contemporary materials and ways of thinking. And I was talking to our friend Jameson Chase Banks on this show recently, and he was, saying, for him, native indigenous work is work. Everything is drawn in, and so it's an indigenous person who has that deep knowledge, but also isn't afraid to draw on European history and, for you,
To
fashion.
draw upon the world.
Yeah, the
we
whole
live,
world.
We live in the world.
Right? Not fixed
Yeah.
fixtures from some mythical past.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and have this conversation. And Native Fashion Week Santa Fe and the Railyard. It's so there's different events happening in the Railyard, from the Fashion Film Festival to the fashion panels, as well as the runway shows and activation and shopping, and just super excited. And my goal is to, as an indigenous fashion curator, I curate runway shows as well as fashion exhibitions in museums. And I do have 3 major exhibitions coming up across in the United States and Canada that I'm really excited about.
And you did something maybe at the Getty recently?
Yep, last year there was an exhibition that was co-curated with the curatorial team that opened at the Autry, as well as the fashion programming part of that exhibition was a fashion show at the Getty, which was super exciting.
Yeah, those are both great, great institutions.
Yeah, and it really lent itself to the desire to push what I'm doing even further, to push this native fashion runway shows beyond entertainment and beyond, to really get indigenous designers to be heavy hitters and players in the fashion industry,
right,
as well as to place Santa Fe on the Fashion Week map, where people are going to New York Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and then also Santa Fe Native Fashion Week with the niche of indigenous fashion.
right.
I mean, you don't get any more American than the Native American, which is, quoted from Lloyd Keevan, a local historical OG of indigenous fashion.
Right, and one of the founders of IAIA.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And were you a student at IAIA at some point? Is that what brought you to Santa Fe, or what's your...
No, I was not a student. I taught. I was a professor.
Oh,
I taught,
even better.
Yeah, I taught there for 8 years, teaching diverse Native American art history courses, from contemporary Native art to historical, as well as global indigenous art, then I developed kind of the last major project I did there was developing courses for the history of Indigenous fashion.
Oh, great.
So yeah, that's teaching is dear to my heart, and I really enjoyed those 8 years at the Institute of American Indian Arts. But I really needed to leave the nest to grow. I kind of hit the ceiling everywhere I was at, and that's
Right.
the former organizations. And so it was just time to leave and grow this new venture. So it can
Right.
really.
So there's no ceiling because it's your own.
Right, there's no ceiling now.
You're the ceiling. You're on the ceiling.
Yeah.
What you were saying about like doing these curating museum shows and bringing Indigenous fashion, Native fashion into the museum, it just reminds me of other Native artists here in Santa Fe, Virgil Ortiz or Chinupa Hanskaluga, who were doing full regalia, I don't know what to call it, costuming,
Yes.
fashion, just clothing. Fashion is, what we wear. So
Yes.
they're incorporating that sometimes, like I know Virgil's done designs for, big labels and brands.
Yeah.
But also just in all his artwork,
Yeah.
there's an element of fashion design and in the storytelling.
Absolutely. And Virgil Ortiz and both Virgil and Chinupa are in the exhibition at the Autry. So if anybody's in LA, please make sure to go to the Autry to see the exhibition. It's just phenomenal. And speaking of Jameson Chase Banks, I mean, I've worked with him before. That's his portrait behind me.
Nice.
There. And that's what I love to bring to the runway is working with artists who are visual artists and who really blur that line between fashion and art. And Chinupa, I mean, I want to get him on the runway one day. I don't know if he ever will.
He's a busy guy.
But my dream runway show is Virgil Ortiz. I came close to it at the Getty, but it just didn't, this close. Virgil Ortiz, Chinupa, and Jeffrey Gibson, Carolyn Monet, and Jason Barrett, to have them all on the runway would be
Yeah.
out of
Their
this world.
designs, not necessarily them as the models.
Yeah, not
Right.
them as the models, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think
But-
Virgil does a lot of modeling.
But to have their collections on the runway would be this amazing, phenomenal, performative fashion art show. But that would take a lot of money and a lot of time. But that's my dream show
Yeah.
now.
Well, you
Oh,
got
and Kent
trained.
Monkman. Kent Monkman needs to be on his work on the runway as well.
Oh yeah. He just opened a big show in
Denver,
Denver
yeah.
Art Museum. Yeah,
Yeah.
that looks great.
Yeah.
And I just saw Jeffrey Gibson. I was in Massachusetts at MassMocha
Yeah.
last week.
Oh, with Jonte Com, because Jonte Com and Kent Monkman were on my runway last year. I had a conversation with them, and it was great.
Great. So when this is happening in the Railyard, it's happening in the farmers market, that big building there, or
It's happening all around. It can be kind of confusing, so keep in mind this is the first year at the Railyard, but the Railyard really lends itself so brilliantly to a fashion week.
yeah.
So this is the first year, working out all the beautiful kinks. Of course, we're sharing the market pavilion with the Santa Fe Farmers Market and the Arts Market. So our programming on Friday is going to be the fashion panels, Bites, Beats, Boutique, meaning shopping, and DJ and opening party at the Market Pavilion on Friday. And super excited. We have the panelist, the head of the CFDA, Stephen Kolb, is coming. That's the head of the Council of Fashion Designers of America.
Wow.
We're bringing him here to have a conversation with Jamie Okuma.
Oh, wonderful.
Super excited about that. And then, so we're going to have kind of the launch party Friday at the Market Pavilion, and then we're going to kick everybody out and have them go to the after party that's being hosted by the Silk Project and the Under Club. I think that's what it's called. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, but there's going to be a joint after party on Friday.
Nice.
And then there is the runway shows are happening in the old Warehouse 21 building.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And
I'm
then-
glad that's getting used again.
Yeah, the old Warehouse 21 building, it's been vacant for, I don't know, like 8 years, and the bill to clean it is $9,000. Still looking for sponsors,
Yeah.
just to cover the
we
cleaning bill.
We have to go to a break, but we'll be right back. I'm talking with Amber Dawn Bear Robe. You're back listening to Coffee and Culture. My name's Matthew Chase Daniel. I'm talking to Amber Dawn Bear Robe about Native Fashion Week Santa Fe, which is May 8th through 11th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Come out. There's a big thing on Friday evening in the Farmers Market Pavilion, and launch party and after party and stuff happening throughout the weekend. And so the runway shows you were saying are happening at the Warehouse 21 building. And
Yeah.
those are Saturday?
Saturday and Sunday, there's 5 shows per day. They start at 4 p.m. Then on the top of every hour, so 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on Saturday and Sunday. But we're also partnering with Kelly Holmes from Native Max magazine, and she'll be doing free runway shows, kind of more guerrilla style runway shows in the Railyard Market Plaza. Saturday and Sunday as well, and those will be happening 12 to 3 noon to 3 p.m.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So those just sort of appear in the
Yes.
in the public space.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I like that. The
And-
Railyard's so great for that. You know,
Exactly.
I run that gallery, my friend Jerry and I, Axel Contemporary,
Yes.
in the truck. And the Railyard's one of our favorite places to do things because it's community space.
Yeah.
And it's also big public space where you can have
Yeah.
a lot going on.
Absolutely. Well, can you park your Axel Contemporary there for May 8th to 11th?
I have to look at my calendar.
Okay.
But maybe, yeah. Thanks for the invitation.
On the spot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I also want to mention there's a fashion film festival, the Violet Crown, and Knuckles Brewery, As Above, So Below. Our closing party is happening at As Above, So Below with DJ Rashawn. Everyone loves Rashawn.
Yeah. We love the song.
Yep, and then we're having a VIP live streaming room in the lounge at the Violet Crown, as well as there's a VIP space in the 2nd Street Brewery patio.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're branching all across the Railyard. That's great.
Branching all across, and then how could I forget the trunk shows? There's fashion trunk shows that are popping up all across the Railyard, and we will have a map that will be available online and that you can
Right.
pick up. We're going to have an information booth underneath the Railyard water tower.
Great. And the website is nativefashionweeksantafe.com.
Yes, correct.
So everyone can go there and find out more information about it. So how did you get involved in fashion as an idea and as a thing that struck your heart and made you want to promote it?
Why am I doing this? I don't know.
Yeah, because we all wear clothes every day.
all-
You've got to
yeah.
pick them out, and
Yeah.
from there,
Well, it really is an extension. I mean, I've been involved in contemporary Indigenous art for decades. When I graduated from college, I did go to an art college in Calgary, Alberta, the Alberta College of Art and Design, which is now a university.
and you're from up there, yeah?
Yes, I'm from Siksika Nation, which is right by Calgary, Alberta. So as soon as I graduated, I went into the arts, into the curator. Well, I wanted to be an artist and a fashion designer, actually. I wanted to go to Parsons. I wanted to go to the Chicago Art Institute. But as a Canadian, as a young, 17, I guess when I graduated, I was 21. As a young 20-year-old going, it was just financially impossible to go to
Right.
like Chicago or New York. But so then that dream changed into when I worked closely with a curator. I had an exhibition as soon as I graduated from college that I created an installation for, and working closely with the curator made me realize that I wanted to explore the curatorial side of the arts rather than making. So curating is still an art form. It's just a different way of expressing. So
Doesn't hurt your fingers as much.
it doesn't hurt your fingers as much, and it's yeah. But so I've just been doing this for
Right.
decades. So I've been working with Indigenous art. I mean, I knew Kent Monkman before he was Kent Monkman, for
Right.
example. I went did a curatorial study at the Banff Center. They had their first Indigenous curatorial work study, a residency called Communion and Other Conversations that I was there for a year and a half, and this residency, I think it was 3 or 4 months, and so I worked with Indigenous artists from across Canada, the United States, New Zealand, and Australia, and Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So that really lends itself into what I do now in terms of curating the runway and curating exhibitions, is that history and that knowledge and my literally decades of experience in contemporary Indigenous arts that lends itself to what you see today. And so this is just a passion. This has just been something, a good friend of mine, Chris Ayres, said just being Native is political, and it's not a choice. And this has just been my driving passion. I mean, I've never been married. I don't have kids. I have a beautiful dog and a cat. And other than that, my work is my life, is my child.
Yeah.
So it is, I mean, this fashion week's not as if I'm making any money off of this, that's for sure.
Right. It's expensive to put this all together and bring everyone into town and promote it.
Yeah, but it's my love. It's my life. It's my passion. It's what drives me. I mean, sometimes I get a little bit passion fatigued. I would say over the end of last year, I definitely had some passion fatigue, but I just pick right back up, and the passion just keeps driving me forward.
Yeah, I in terms of the curation as opposed to making, I've worked as an artist for my whole life, and as well as working as a carpenter and building houses, whatever it was. But I always had this just intense driving force to make things and to make, whether they're paintings or drawings or sculptures or whatever the objects are. And I still have that to some degree. But at a certain point a few years ago, I started doing more curatorial stuff and finding other people who had that passion for making and maybe had it more than I did, and being able to work with them and give them a place to show stuff at because often artists are very good at making and they're not so good at promoting stuff. So it's a wonderful role to empower other artists or fashion designers or whatever, and give that forum. It's very gratifying for me, and it sounds like you went that direction too.
Absolutely, and that's with this fashion week. It really is about having the right people in the chairs and having the media, and because that makes a world of difference. We can have a sea of family members in the audience, but that's not going to make the change. What's going to make the difference is having industry here.
Right, and fashion. So I'm very uneducated about the world of fashion. I used to live in Paris, and I lived right in this district where all the people made the pret-a-porter, the ready-to-wear stuff, and there was a certain month of the year where all of a sudden it was crazy busy there, and so I saw that, and that was interesting.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, the racks of clothes being bustled here and there all the time down the little streets. There's the clothes that we wear, that we wear every day, and then there's the runway clothes, which are these sort of sometimes outlandish, oversized, crazy, interesting things. And how does it work in fashion to go from one to the other? You know what I mean?
Well, I think, fashion has definitely changed, over the past few decades. When you look at, European fashion houses who, in the 80s, started to have, ready-to-wear lines when they never would have conceived of that before. So I guess, that's the great thing with Native Fashion Week and with fashion weeks in general, is you can have exposure to the diversity of what fashion means. So that means, the ready-to-wear, to the avant-garde, to the wearable art, to the performative. So it really is covering the breadth of what fashion can, be a way of storytelling.
Right. And so the stuff that's more artistic or one-of-a-kind pieces are designed for the runway. They're also designed for for individuals, rarefied individuals, who don't wear them all the time. Yeah. But they also, I assume, influence the whole ready-to-wear thing. Stuff comes out of there, what people see in Fashion Week, whether the designer is making a line of that or not, it's influencing everyone's vision of what could be and what you can wear.
Absolutely, yeah. The more avant-garde, you will see, movie stars or people who have high profiles who will wear that avant-garde to the Met Gala.
The Met Gala or the Oscars or those things.
Where literally you can't move and you're lifted up and walked up the stairs because you can't walk in the garment. So you have those kind of garments that do have a place. But then you also do have a lot of those type of garments that are on the runways that I curate actually are picked up by museums, by curators. So I will have museum curators in the audience for this fashion week because, Indigenous fashion it's not new, but there's a lot of attention on it right now, and a lot of people are collecting it. And so really these designs are, purchased right off the runway for museum collections.
Okay, we got to go to another break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
You're back at Coffee and Culture, Talk 1260, 103.7, KTRC, streaming at santafe.com just after 2 p.m. on Saturday, and then repeated on Sunday. I'm your host every other week, Matthew Chase Daniel, and you can find podcasts of past shows at Coffee and Culture with Matthew Chase Daniel on whatever podcast platform you might use if you want. I talk to a lot of interesting people about interesting things, mostly things that are happening in Santa Fe. So if you're interested, check that out. I'm talking with Dawn Bear Robe about Native Fashion Week Santa Fe, running from May 8th through 11th. I had to put on my glasses to read that. I was nervous you said you liked my glasses, and I was like getting dressed to come over here this morning. I was like, oh, she's a fashion person. What the hell am I going to wear?
Well, you got the glasses, that's all that counts.
The glasses, so I picked my fashion glasses. So Native fashion, I was looking at Orlando Dugi's Instagram this morning, getting ready for this, and it was a little video of him making these little sort of floral shapes that were sewn onto something that went around the waist, and he was making them, cutting yucca stalks, not stalks, leaves, and scraping them down and getting the fiber and then making these shapes. It was beautiful, and it was obviously, he's Dene, so he's from this climate where yucca grows, and yucca fiber has been used traditionally for weaving and clothing and all different uses for ages. And so the designs he were making weren't traditional Dene weaving designs at all, but he was using that material in a traditional way, the way it was processed and all. So that's sort of one example of what Native fashion is. It's a Native person using traditional technologies to some degree, right? But others I see in pictures of stuff that you've shown where it's the designs on maybe printed fabric look like designs you would see on pottery or weavings, but they're not woven in that way. So that's sort of the opposite. That's not using the traditional technologies, but using the traditional visual cues, and which maybe hold meaning in those designs or not, I don't know. But do you want to talk a little bit about?
I think what you're touching on is all designers have their unique way of approaching fashion and executing their vision. That includes process, it includes using unconventional materials or using conventional materials. The diversity is so vast that, when people ask me what Native fashion is, I can't tie it up in a neat bow and say this is what it is. You're going to have Indigenous designers who are going to have a much different, going to be informed by the land and their own social environment, their epoch, their family, and so that is going to be informed much differently by an artist who's Alaskan Native and grew up in the snow and the cold and with a different wildlife and vegetation compared to a designer who is born and raised in California, surrounded by palm trees, beaches, and the ocean.
Right.
So it really is. So then you have that, but then you also have, just all artists you're an artist, right? So you understand all artists are unique, so that creative exploration and execution is really going to be informed not only by who they are as Indigenous people, but also as who they are as individuals.
Right.
So it really is a matter of, there's no one way that to kind of dissect and to analyze these designers, because that's like just trying to analyze European designers. How do you do that?
Right. So Native designers, they're Native people, and so they're bringing their history and their expression.
Yeah.
But it feels like there's also, to some degree, a value in separating out native design and fashion because it's a reclaiming of a space and of a role in the society. Like, these people are here and we're gonna wear these amazing things and with a pride and a value to that, and sort of proclaiming your presence in a way that has been difficult in Native communities in the last couple hundred years.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, I mean, when you look at the history, there's, without getting too much in the history, but when you look at the federal law and policy, you had assimilation, appropriation, or assimilation, kill the Indian, save the man. Then you had the reservation era. So when you have all of this history of decades of trying to erase Native culture, of course that's going to affect the art and design and what we wear, what we speak, the stories that we tell. So on that note, when you look at Indigenous fashion, again, it's not new. It's just that it's been framed as anthropological curiosity object rather than framed as fashion. When you look at historical fashion, then it also has been used, when you look at the turn of the century, the Edward Curtis Indian, meaning there's this, and when you look at Santa Fe, there's this idea of what Native dress looks like and
right.
frozen in time. And
a lot of those Curtis things, he had dress people up wearing things from some other group.
Yeah.
And
he traveled with a whole trunk full of Indian costumes.
Yeah. He did the original Native Fashion Week, right?
He did the original appropriation.
Yeah. Yeah. Take that stuff and dress people up. Yeah. I mean, he had a complicated history because he was making this idealized version, but he was also trying to, his whole spiel was that he was saving the vanishing Indian. Right.
Yeah.
And he was documenting the stuff. And some of his documents are beautiful and wonderful. And a lot of them are also invented.
They were mostly invented to execute his vision of the Native American.
Exactly.
For example, people don't understand that some of the, there's some famous photographs of examples of, I'm forgetting the title of it, but that's me as the art historian. I should know the title of this photograph. But the original photo had examples of modernity, meaning like an alarm clock. And then in the published photo, he erased that alarm clock.
Right.
He also would, you had the warring Indians, the warring plains in 1907. The Indians weren't warring with each other in 1907. That era was over.
Right.
At that point, so...
So he was creating reenactments and... Yeah,
but the Edward Curtis Indian, Vine Deloria talks about that in Custer Died for Your Sins. That Edward Curtis Indian is still so ingrained in the American iconography of what the Indian looks like to the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good that you're doing what you're doing to break that down and give the world a different vision of what Native fashion is.
Yeah, Native expression, art, culture, everything.
Yeah, it feels like Santa Fe has really become, it's been this way for a while, but more recently it feels stronger as a center of contemporary Native arts.
Yes.
In the world.
Yeah, I would say, you have the annual Indian market, which, is problematic, but it's great at the same time. But what you have with the annual Indian market is you have all the surrounding programming that is really pushing the boundaries and responsible for elevating Santa Fe into a place known for contemporary Indigenous art. So you have the Museum of Contemporary Native Arts, you have MIAC, you have just all site Santa Fe, the form and concept. All of these cultural institutions in Santa Fe have really done a great job on elevating this city to be known for contemporary Indigenous art, because it started out as come to Santa Fe to see the authentic Indian art and culture.
Yeah, well, the Indian market is strange because and I think you sort of touched on that, it's both very sort of beautiful and well done, but what we call traditional or even stereotypical arts, whether that's
pigeonholes.
Pottery and weaving and things that
it pigeonholes its categories.
Right,
and it
but
really...
there is sort of also a slow opening to contemporary work that's totally out of that.
Very slow.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give an example, just how it can be very archaic in its programming is that jewelry is not considered jewelry. Is if it's beaded earrings, or even there's a lot of acrylic earrings that are really popular right now in native fashion. Jewelry,
those can't go into the jewelry category.
Cannot go into the jewelry category. It has to be silver, precious stones, and metals. You know, and that is really
based on Navajo silversmithing from 100 years ago.
Exactly, and so that really does a disservice for growing and expanding. I mean, I think they're doing a great job of trying, but it is probably going to take them about another 20 years to catch up.
Well, I'm glad they're slowly working on it. We're going to go to another break. We'll be right back. I'm Matthew Chase Daniel talking with Amber Dawn Bear Robe about Native Fashion Week Santa Fe. You're back at Coffee and Culture. My name is Matthew Chase Daniel. I'm talking with Amber Dawn Bear Robe about Native Fashion Week Santa Fe, which is running May 8th through 11th in the Railyard here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And you can get all the schedule and information as it develops at nativefashionweeksantafe.com. And you can find Amber Dawn on Instagram and at Amber Dawn Gold, or you can find Native Fashion Week Santa Fe is also the handle on Instagram. So check that all out and come on out, and it'll be very interesting. Talk a little bit about some of the designers and artists who were featured in the thing.
So we have over 30 Indigenous designers coming from across Canada, the United States, and that includes models. And I'm really excited. So a local talent that is emerging is Alex Vigil Apparel. Super excited for his collection. It's just this making kind of couture jean wear, and it's phenomenal what he's doing. I'm really excited for him. He's actually showing at 7 p.m. on Saturday, May 10th.
So jean wear, you mean made out of denim?
Yeah, made out of denim, but really reconstructed denim. Just super exciting, and that's just the sneak peek that I've seen. I have no idea what else he has in store, but there is also, I'm excited for Nonami. Lucas Nonami is coming from the Pacific West Coast, and they're showing at 8 p.m. on Saturday as well. And this person actually is more known as a visual artist first and foremost, but makes clothing collections made out of this kind of paper material, and it becomes almost animated clothing. It's hard to explain. I
saw something online this morning. Maybe it was like these strips of cloth or paper, sort of bold. No, maybe that was.
I think that's Carolyn Monet you're thinking of, but Carolyn Monet also uses unconventional materials and actually building materials to make it look like this kind of soft, luminous, voluminous.
Yeah, that was beautiful, the way it moved as the model was moving, and you saw some sort of text from what this had been built from on there. I thought that was brilliant.
That was definitely Carolyn Monet, who I worked with at the Getty show last fall. But yeah, Lucas Nonami also recently did a storefront window at Hermes in New York City.
Oh, nice.
We also have super excited for Apache Skateboards and Douglas Miles. I mean, they're going to come here. They're going to be our show closer, showstopper, Sunday 8 p.m. And they're just going to hit it out of the park with what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, he always travels with a big posse, and they're always very forthright and strong and beautiful. And,
traveling with a big group. And somehow I have to house them all. Again, I'm looking for sponsors. But yeah, we have local, Penny Singer, and then we have people coming from across Canada, Sacred Thunder, and Original Landlords, who's also from the Southwest. I mean, please just go to the nativefashionweeksantafe.com to look at our robust list of designers. All of their bios are listed. Also, ASEP Designs, Adrian Pinnacus is showing a new collection. Yeah, it's just super excited. I can't wait to see what's on the runway.
Yeah.
We also have some great models coming back, and that is Jessica Matten of Dark Winds, Kyle Gordon of Dark Winds. Then, of course, we have new and emerging model talent, Nina Polk. Her mother is actually Diane Whitehawk, a famous artist. But, we're actually bringing in New York City, we're bringing in scouters to look at all the models that are on our runway.
Are all the models native?
No,
Indigenous
they're not.
People? No.
I would say maybe 75% native, but we work with models of all different backgrounds, sizes, shapes, colors, and
yeah. And there's sizes and shapes. As a person who, when I look at these fashion things, I'm like, I couldn't wear that. But I think there's also something I was reading. There's different body types, and there's fashion for different body types, and it's not. That's also part of what's going on here.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there is a trend just or I shouldn't say globally, but a trend in Canada and the United States just to really have diversity in fashion, and that includes body shapes and sizes and age as well.
Yeah. Old people need.
Old people wear clothes.
Good. Yeah, old people wear clothes. Thankfully, they need them more than young people.
Yeah. It is interesting though, as I'm getting older, just how the fashion kind of focus has changed. Like I think when I was younger, it's like, oh, you gotta look sexy, but now I'm like, that's way too much work. I just want to have a signature piece, like a big pair of glasses, or kind of these statement pieces. And so I just see how my fashion trends have changed over the years. And growing older, I want bigger and bolder, and people to be designing specifically for those type of older generations as well.
Yeah, well, as I've gotten older, I just wear overalls and a white shirt every day.
Well, whatever works.
Yeah, but I have several colors,
Yeah, well, that's important. Do you have a pair of pink overalls?
I have green and denim and black and this sort of Carhartt brown.
Okay, well,
but pink would be good.
You can add.
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for some. I was looking for some the other day online, and I found some that were like American flag overalls.
Oh.
I was like, I can't quite do that.
Well, I don't know if you want to do that now.
Yeah, this day and age, keep away from that somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You should get a New Mexico flag.
A Mexican flag, yeah. As long as I carry my ID with me.
No, New Mexico, not Mexican.
Oh, New Mexico flag.
A New Mexico flag overalls.
Yeah, what is our flag? Is it the seal of New Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yellow background?
Yellow and orange.
I like yellow and orange.
There you go.
I could do that. I don't know. I have a lot of different eyeglasses because I never wore glasses in my life until the last couple of years when my reading eyesight's gotten a little worse.
Yeah.
So I just have and I'm not good at keeping track of them. So
yeah, it happens.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you for doing what you're doing and putting this out there, and I look forward to seeing it and seeing how this evolves over years.
Yes, and the goal again is to really put Santa Fe on the map as a fashion capital. Also to eventually to grow this into a spring fashion week as well as a fall native fashion week. Mm-hmm. But again, that really takes a city effort. I mean, this is not just me doing this. I have a huge team. I have a fashion PR team who are coming from New York. I have a producer team coming from Denver. I have media teams coming from LA. So this really does take a village, and I really strongly I'm looking for city support, state support, community support to make this happen, because this is not just about me. It's not even just about the designers. It's really about economic growth for the city and the state, and building jobs and having young people stay here. And this really is
good.
To change for positive change.
Yeah. So all you stakeholders out there,
yes,
get on board.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Amber.
you.
It's nice to speak with you.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, so I have an extra minute left here at the end of my show after that great conversation with Amber Dawn Bear Robe. And so I just thought I'd mention a few interesting things coming up in Santa Fe. This weekend, the 26th, 27th, 28th, there'll be chalk art painting of called Missing Waters by Stacy Levy. Painting water images with blue chalk paint through the rail yard from La Choza along the bike path all the way up to New Mexico School for the Arts. So stop by and see that. That'll be up until it rains or for a few days until it wears off. And Axel's show with Jameson Chase Banks and an Imkiwa White Eagle will be up at Ghost Ranch on the 3rd of May, which is coming up next week. And we'll be there in the afternoon from 1:30 to 4:30. We'll also be with Amber Dawn Bear Robe's Fashion Week in the Railyard, probably Friday night, maybe Saturday night on the 9th and the 10th. So come check that out. Elizabeth Jacobson's doing a reading from her new book of poetry at Collected Works on April 30th. That's at Collected Works downtown at 6 p.m. So come check out all that interesting art and culture events in Santa Fe, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.